There are 5 sentences a grown child can say to an aging parent that you should never sit and quietly absorb. The moment you hear one of them, get up and walk away. Not in rage, not to punish anyone, but out of the plain self-respect a long life has earned. Tonight I will give you all 5, and I will tell you exactly what each one means and why it is the signal to remove yourself. Listen closely, because your dignity in these years may depend on knowing them. Understand first what walking away actually means here, because it is not what wounded pride would make of it. Leaving the room is not leaving your love. It is refusing to be present for your own degradation. The Buddha taught compassion without limit, but he never taught that we must sit still and let ourselves be trampled in the name of it. There is a difference between enduring hardship with grace and surrendering your dignity to contempt, and the wise learn to tell them apart. When a child speaks to you in one of these 5 ways, staying to absorb it does not help them, and it destroys you. It teaches them that you can be treated so, and it teaches you to accept being treated so. So when you hear these words, you leave, quietly, without a scene, but completely. That is not weakness. That is the last and highest form of self-respect. The first phrase is the one that attacks your very grip on reality. That never happened. You are imagining things. You are confused again. Now we all forget, and an honest reminder is a kindness. But that is not what this is. This is the deliberate rewriting of what you know to be true. The steady insistence that your memory, your perception, your mind itself cannot be trusted until you begin to doubt your own experience of the world. This is among the cruelest things one person can do to another, and it is especially poisonous against an elder because it preys on the very fear that haunts these years, the fear of losing your mind. When a child uses your age as a weapon to convince you that you cannot trust your own thoughts, they are not caring for you, they are dismantling you. Do not stay and argue, because you cannot win an argument designed to make you feel insane. Leave the conversation. Hold quietly to what you know is true, and protect your mind from anyone who profits by making you doubt it. Notice how this one works, because it is rarely a single dramatic lie. It is a slow, patient erosion. A small correction here, a raised eyebrow there, a sigh that says, "Poor thing, she's slipping again," repeated over weeks and months until you begin to second guess even the things you are certain of. And here is why it is so dangerous. Once a person has convinced you that your own mind cannot be trusted, they have made themselves the authority over your reality. And from there, they can rewrite anything, take anything, decide anything, and answer your every objection with the same soft poison. You're just confused again. The defense is simple, though it takes courage. Stop trying to prove yourself to someone committed to disbelieving you. Write things down if you must, so you have your own record. Keep near you the people who still treat your mind as sound. And when the erosion begins, do not lean in to argue. Step back and refuse to hand anyone the power to define what is real for you. The second phrase strikes at your right to exist without apology. You're a burden. You're too much. We didn't sign up for this. Perhaps it is said in a moment of exhaustion, and everyone has such moments, and a single weary word can be forgiven. But when this becomes the tone, when you are made to feel again and again that your needs are an imposition, that your presence is a weight, that your very existence in these years is an inconvenience others resent, then you are hearing something you must not sit inside. Every human being, at both the beginning and the end of life, needs care. You gave that care once, freely, to a helpless child who could offer you nothing in return. To need it now is not a failure, and it is not a debt you must apologize for. When a child makes you feel ashamed simply for growing old and needing help, do not shrink and do not beg. Rise, remove yourself from that shame, and go where your existence is not treated as a problem to be tolerated. And carry this thought with you when the word burden is thrown at you, because it is the answer to the shame. There was a time when you rose in the night again and again for a child who could not feed itself, could not clean itself, could not survive an hour without you. And you did not once call that child a burden. You called it your life's love. The care simply flowed the way water flows downhill, because that is what love does. To need care in your turn is not the reversal of that love. It is its completion, the same wheel coming round. A family that understands this gives care in the later years as naturally as it received it in the early ones. Only a heart that has forgotten where it came from could look at the one who once carried it and call that person too much. Do not accept their forgetting as the truth about yourself. Their inability to give love back is a poverty in them, not a debt in you. The third phrase strips away your voice entirely. You don't get a say in this. We've already decided. Just do as you're told. There is a moment in some families when the children quietly appoint themselves the rulers of a parent's life, deciding where you will live, how you will spend, what you will do, and informing you of these decisions as though you were a child yourself, or worse, as though you were not there at all. Hear this clearly. Old age does not transfer the authorship of your life to anyone. You may need more help than you once did, and accepting help is wisdom. But there is a vast difference between help and control, And a child who erases your voice from the decisions about your own life has crossed from caring into ruling. You are not a ward. You are not a case to be managed. You are a sovereign human being to your final breath. When you are spoken to as though your voice no longer counts, do not plead to be heard. Leave, keep your own counsel, and refuse to hand anyone the pen to your own story. And understand the trick that makes this one so hard to resist. It almost always comes dressed as love. We are only doing what's best for you. You can't manage on your own anymore. We know better now. The concern may even be partly real, and that is exactly what makes it so easy to swallow. But concern that silences you is not concern. It is control wearing a kinder mask. And the test is simple. Does the help still leave the choice in your hands, or does it take the choice away? A good child says, "Here are the options. What would you like?" A controlling one says, "Here is what is going to happen," and treats your objection as proof that you can no longer be trusted to decide. Accept help with the tasks that have grown hard. That is not surrender, that is wisdom. But the authority over your own life is not a task you delegate, and you must never let anyone convince you that needing a hand with the living means giving up the right to decide how you live. Let me pause here, because these first three are heavy. And if you have heard even one of them in a voice you raised and loved, the grief is real. If one has found you tonight, write a single word below. Enough. Not in anger, but as a quiet vow to yourself that you will no longer sit inside these words. And look, as you write it, at how many others are writing it beside you, because this sorrow is far more common than anyone dares to say aloud. Now the last two, which are the sharpest of all. The fourth praise weaponizes your own need against you. You should be grateful. After everything we do for you, this is how you act? Watch for this one, because it turns care into a debt and love into a transaction. The moment your child begins to hold their help over your head, to remind you constantly of what they do for you, to demand gratitude as the price of basic decency, the help has stopped being love and become leverage. Real care does not keep a ledger. Real care does not make you grovel for the dignity of being treated well. When you are made to feel that you must earn through endless thankfulness and compliance the simple respect that every person deserves, you are being controlled through your own vulnerability. And no amount of what they do for you justifies the humiliation of being made to beg for kindness. Thank the ones who help you sincerely always. But leave the presence of anyone who uses their help as a chain, because gratitude given under coercion is not gratitude, it is surrender. And the fifth phrase, the coldest of them all, treats you as though you are already gone. It won't be long now. What are we going to do with all this once you're not around? When you're gone, we'll finally to speak of your death, your money, your belongings, your absence in front of you, carelessly, as though you were already a memory, as though your remaining life were merely an inconvenient delay before the inheritance arrives, is a wound almost too deep to name. And yet elders endure it, sitting silently at their own tables, while others discuss the dividing of their world as if they had already left it. Do not sit inside that. You are alive. You are here. Every day that remains to you is fully yours and fully real, and no one has the right to bury you while your heart still beats. When you hear yourself spoken of as already gone, rise from that table and go somewhere your life is still treated as a living thing, because that, and not their calendar of your death, is where your remaining years belong. There is a particular loneliness in this one that deserves to be named, because it is the loneliness of being present and erased at the same time. To be in the room, breathing, thinking, feeling everything, while the people you love speak over you as though you were a piece of furniture whose removal they are planning, is to be made a ghost before your time. And the temptation is to say nothing, to swallow it, to tell yourself they do not mean it, that this is simply how young people talk. But you feel it, and the feeling is true. You are not gone. The years still ahead of you, however many or few, are not a waiting period for others. They are your life, as real and as full of possibility as any years you have ever lived. Refuse to be buried early. Refuse to sit quietly at the reading of a will that has not yet been needed. Your presence still fills a room, and anyone who cannot see that has lost the ability to see you at all, which is their loss to grieve, not yours to accept. I once knew a woman who had spent years sitting silently through exactly these words at her son's table, absorbing the corrections, the sighs, the talk of what would happen once she was gone, telling herself that a good mother endures anything. She was fading, quietly, a little more each visit. And then one evening, when the talk turned yet again to dividing what she would leave behind, while she sat right there in the room, something in her finally straightened. She did not shout. She simply stood, gathered her coat, said gently that she would not sit and be buried while she was still alive, and went home. It was the first boundary she had set in 40 years. She told me later that she had trembled the whole way home, certain she had ruined everything. But something had shifted. Her son, forced for the first time to see her as a person who would no longer simply absorb whatever he handed her, slowly began to change. Not overnight and not completely, but the calm act of walking away had done what years of quiet endurance never could. It had returned her, in her own eyes and eventually in his, to a person worthy of respect. Now hear the turn that keeps this teaching from becoming poison. Because this matters as much as anything I have said. To leave in the way I mean it is not to hate. It is not to sever your children from your heart forever or to plot revenge in your final years. Leaving is simply the refusal to be present for your own harm. You can love a child completely and still not sit still while they degrade you, just as you would once have stopped that same child from harming themselves. And there is a quiet power in the leaving, because a parent who will no longer absorb contempt forces a change in the very pattern. When you stop being available to be trampled, you take away the thing that let the trampling continue. Some children, faced with a parent who has calmly reclaimed their own dignity, are shaken awake and begin, slowly, to treat you as they should have all along. Others are not, and that is a grief you may have to carry. But even then, it is better to carry an honest grief with your dignity intact than to keep your seat at the table by surrendering your soul. And let me add the harder truth, gently as I always must. Look honestly at whether any of this has grown, in part, from patterns of your own, from years of criticism or control or guilt that hardened a child's heart against you. If so, this is not a night for shame, but for the rare grace the old are given, the chance to soften even now, to lay down the need to be right, to become someone easier to love. Guard your dignity fiercely, and guard just as fiercely against becoming the very hardness that turned a heart cold in the first place. So carry this with you. When one of these 5 phrases is spoken to you, you do not need to shout and you do not need to explain. You need only to rise quietly and remove yourself and let your calm departure say what no argument could. Your dignity is not negotiable. Your mind is your own. Your voice still counts. Your life is still yours. And your final years are far too precious to spend absorbing contempt from anyone, even a child you love with your whole heart. If this reached you tonight, leave one word below: dignity. And remember this above all: the one who walks away from disrespect has not lost the relationship. They have simply refused to lose themselves. Protect your peace. Keep your heart open, but your dignity guarded, and spend the years you have left where you are honored, not merely tolerated. You have earned that, and it is not too late to claim it.